Hi, and welcome back to The Political Cycle, the podcast where we take our little cycle around the world to talk about politics and elections in our own and other countries. I'm Emily Tamkin in Washington, D.C., and I'm joined this week by Rohan Venkat in Cairo.
Hello.
And the third wheel of our tricycle, Tom Hamilton, is not here from London this week, but we do have with us CaroSchaeffer in Berlin. She is a freelance journalist and a senior non-resident fellow at the Atlantic Council. Carol, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thanks so much for having me.
Now, as you may have guessed from her location, Carol is here to tell us how everything is really going great with the German center left and left wing politics in Europe. No, I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about the upcoming German elections. So, Carol, maybe to begin, I don't even know if this is the beginning, but if you could just explain a bit for our listeners why Germany is going to the polls later this month and why the government collapsed in December.
So, Germany is going to the polls after the tortured existence of the Ampel coalition, the traffic light coalition, finally ended last November, actually on the day that Donald Trump's victory in the US was announced in Europe. So, people said they woke up with the news of Trump, and then by the evening, the government had essentially collapsed. This was the first three-way coalition in decades, and they were famous for their infighting and bickering. And it finally fell apart after a series of conflicts surrounding budget and finance, particularly something called the debt brake or Schuldenbremse, where the centrist, pro-business neoliberal finance minister, Christian Lindner, essentially blocked attempts to suspend the constitutional debt brake, which is constitutional protection limiting how much Germany can take in debt in relation to GDP. And this has been a very controversial topic, but basically the government fell apart over this and other conflicts also related to migration and other ideological divisions within this three-way coalition. And so once the government fell apart, Germany announced that it would hold snap elections, which are happening this weekend on February 23rd.
And what is sort of the lay of I don't know how to put this, the lay of the polling land? I guess how are the different parties positioned as we head into the election? Let's start with the parties in the government, and then we can sort of zoom out and speak about those who are not currently in the government.
Sure. So the parties that formed the Ampel coalition, the traffic light coalition, which was named after the colors that they represent. So red for the SPD, which is the Social Democrats. Then you have the Greens, which are green, obviously. And then you have the FDP, which is the Free Democratic Party, which is the neoliberal, often called pro-business, sort of centrist party, represented by the yellow. And of those parties, they're all polling pretty badly. Olaf Scholz, who is the head of the SPD and the current chancellor of Germany, is polling very badly and is generally very unpopular. It's questionable whether the FDP, the centrist neoliberals, will even be able to make the 5% threshold in order to stay in parliament. So their entire future is very unknown. And then the Greens, while they were doing very well in the first part of this administration, which was the first administration since Merkel, they were doing very well, but steadily lost support and then kind of capped out at basically what's their base, which is about 12 to 15%. So nobody's doing great. And then the big challenger is the CDU. And the CDU is likely to be the winner, even though they will need to form a coalition.